the more successful your treatment is likely to be. So early detection is key, I would say. Just be aware.
Oh, exactly. What I was going to say is just even if you have a little worry, just get it taken care of, like get it checked out. So, okay, thank you. That was really important that we kind of touched on that. So, when did you realize that you could get out of this depression? When you started to connect with these other people, or what helped you get out the most?
Yeah, it was a very almost a roundabout journey. I'd always been interested in personal development. I'd done an NLP course. I was interested in meditation and Reiki and lots of energy work as well. Just sort of a mild, passing interest. But then when I wanted to do everything that I could to stop my cancer coming back, not just physically but mentally as well, I just threw everything into, I'm on a mission now. And it was almost, years ago I studied for a master's degree, which when I was working full time, it was very intense. And it was almost like that. It was like I was studying for a degree. I just wanted to learn as much as I can. I read books that people were recommending. I went to see speakers. I did a nutritional healing course. I went to see Reiki healers. I did everything that I could. So it was I wouldn't say it was like a straight line. And that's why I felt like now that I've been through the end of this, I can share my experience with other people. As I say, everyone's journey is different. Some people love to meditate, for instance. Some people love to change their diet. Other people are like, no, I don't want to do that. It's not for me. And again, it's just making a plan for yourself. I think that's the key thing. Something that fits in your life. And I think a good analogy of this is green smoothies, a green juice. Now, I've got a juicer and I love a green juice, and I love all the green veggies or a cucumber and even a green apple. It's something when I drink it, it makes me feel good. I love the taste of it. I put things in that I like the taste of, and it makes me feel very positive that I'm doing something to help my health. My future self will thank me for it. That's how I try and think of it. I recommended this to one of my friends, and I went to her house and she was drinking this green smoothie and she was like, oh, this is horrible. This is horrible. I don't like it. And I thought, that's doing you no good at all. If you're just thinking that your life has got to be grim now, you've got to do all these horrible things that you don't want to do just because you've got cancer, that's not how it should be. So I do think there's something about nurturing yourself, about learning what works for you. And we're all different. We all react to different things. And I think that's part of the journey as well. I heard somebody say the other day about, I can't remember what it was about, but it was about some sort of treatment or therapy. And it was all about, it's coming back to you. It's all about coming back to who you really are before, the world wore you down, before you put on the hat of being an employee, a mother, a wife, all the other roles that women wear, all the responsibilities that we have. Over the years, it's like a layer upon a layer and upon a layer of things that sometimes can suppress who we really are. And I think any life-changing event can give you that opportunity to pause, take a break and think, am I really living my life in the way that I want to live it? Or do I need to make some changes? And I think looking back, it took me a while to get there, but that was the gift, if you like, within the diagnosis, was I had that chance. I didn't have to carry on the way that I was. Mm-hmm. It almost gave me permission to say, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be around those people that I find difficult. I don't want to do that job that's too stressful. These are the things that I do want to do. And it was that chance to reevaluate everything, and for once not feel guilty about putting myself first, because my loved ones want me to get better. They want me to be happy and healthy. Mm-hmm.
So what is it that gets you going the most? Is it that your family wants you to be happy and healthy? Is it that you've learned how to prioritize yourself? What is it that keeps you going every single day?
Yeah, I think it is. It's they're my big reason for wanting to be happy and healthy, is my family. But also I've almost, and this sounds a bit woo-woo, but learned to love myself as well. And so I think sometimes that sounds a bit self-indulgent, but I really believe, I follow Louise Hay. I've read her books, You Could Heal Your Life. And I really believe a lot of disease starts with the way that we think about ourselves, the way we think about the world. And so I've come to accept that I'm okay. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but I do love myself. And I think as a small child, I could hear my mother or my grandmother saying, "Oh, that one, she loves herself." Like, that is the worst thing in the world, to be so self centered. And that was almost ingrained in me, that it was very bad to love yourself or to put yourself first. And so for a long time, particularly at work, I was a people pleaser. I wasn't good at boundaries. I'd volunteer for everything and then I'd be first in the office and last to leave at night. And so I've learned to set some boundaries. I've learned to think that my needs are just as important as anybody else's. It's taken me quite a long time to learn that, but I think those are the important lessons that I've learned.
Mhm. Yeah. I actually always talk about, like, feeling confident, and that's something that came up for me the other day, is how there's a fine line between coming off the wrong way when you love yourself and you're confident in yourself, and just acting like you're better than people. And I think that's where, the line is. And what do you feel like after, like, what is it that's driving you as far as, like, after your cancer? Is it that you lived and you feel like you need to take advantage of life more, or is it that you have, does that make sense? Like, I just am wondering. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Definitely. You realise as well as you get older, I've just turned 60, and you realise, we are, our time here is limited. None of us know what's around the corner, whether we're going to be here in a year's time or 5 years' time or 10 years' time. So it's quite often we spend so much time planning for the future. I'll be happy when I get that next job. I'll be happy when I lose £10. I'll be happy when I've paid that debt off. But actually, all any of us have got is today. So why not choose? And it takes a little while to train yourself to think that way, but why not choose just to be happy today? There's good in every day. And things like, a gratitude journal that I started to do trained my mind to think, yeah, I might have had a bad, the weather's been bad today, or something didn't quite go the way I wanted it to, but I've got so much to be grateful for.
Mhm.
And so it's training my mind to be like that.
Mhm.
But going back to what you just said about when you want to love yourself, you don't want to be arrogant. You don't want to be that person who's looking down on people. And I think confidence is not just, I heard somebody say, it's walking into a room and not being scared of whether people would like me, but actually thinking, do I like the people in this room?
Mhm.
You're not above people, you're not below them. You're just as valid, you're just as beautiful, you're just as accomplished as anybody else. So why not acknowledge
Mhm.
that you deserve to be in that room?
Mhm. Yeah, we really only have today, and I'm, like, resonating with everything you say, and I'm very interested in all of the things that you're sharing as well. And it's hard to just live like that. So it's a decision every single day that you're going to put yourself first every day, that you're going to acknowledge that you're not going to be here forever. And
Mm-hmm.
even, I mean, it doesn't have to be like death. It can be you lose somebody, or you lose your house, or you
Yeah.
lose your job, or you break your leg. Like, you just have to be thankful in where you are right now, because everything can change tomorrow. And that's such an important, an important point. So, how you said, like, Reiki is how you pronounce it, right?
Reiki,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an
Yeah.
energy, yeah.
Yeah. All of that
And
stuff.
again,
No, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say it is about, for me, is create. It was about creating new habits. So I've said about the gratitude journal. The other thing that I don't do anymore is watch the news on TV, because I found that it was always doom and gloom. It was
Mhm.
always look at the economy,
Mhm.
look at all these things in the world to be scared of. And while I want to be aware of what's going on in the world, if I watch the news for any length of time, I know it brings my energy level down.
Mhm.
It can make me fearful. It can make me depressed. It can make me think, well, what's the point? For me, that doesn't work. I don't like to watch the news anymore. So again, it's lots of little. I won't say there's one big thing. There's lots of little habits that we can pick and choose that are about making us feel better. For some people, they like information and they want to know everything about everything, but sometimes that can be too much.
Mm-hmm.
That can be scary. That can be overload of fear. So it's getting that right balance of what works for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I felt that way back a couple years ago. I was like kind of taking breaks from the news and I took it off my phone, like the apps. I should do that again, but it's just so much and I feel like I do put pressure on myself to be like in the know of what's going on. But you also have to weigh the pros and cons of that, especially because there's good news out there. Like I actually had a YouTube channel years ago and I wanted to do a segment of like the good news and it was harder to find than you'd think. Like
Yeah,
there were really not any websites of good news until John Krasinski, I don't know if you remember that during like the COVID pandemic, started like good news
yeah,
and now you see it more, but it's definitely a huge thing that's weighing on people whether you recognize it or not. And I think something that people listening might feel is okay, I don't really identify with the quote unquote woo woo stuff like gratitude journals, whatever, Reiki, whatever, like breathing exercises, whatever. But when you work with people and help them, what other things do they like resonate with? And what have they said has changed their lives?
yeah, sure. So I think it's I touched briefly on setting boundaries, and I think that is something a lot of women. I mostly work with women. A lot of women struggle with that, maybe in the family situation as well. And midlife women sometimes have got it coming from both sides. You've got maybe parents who want to tell you the way that they see the world. You might have children or whatever, siblings. So there's always a lot of tension sometimes and a lot of guilt around boundary setting within families. But again, it's having that confidence to think I am as important as anybody else in my family. And again, somebody said, people go home for the holidays, for Christmas. And if you don't see your family very often, when you're all back together, all of a sudden, this woman said to me, I'm a 40-year-old woman and I went back to being a teenager. When my mum told me to do something, it's like I went into a teenage mood. She said, I don't do that. That's not who I am. But because we're in that family dynamic,
Yeah.
yeah, we revert to type. So it's about thinking, just unpacking that a little bit and thinking about why do I like that? Why is it? What are the buttons that people are pushing in my families are the worst for pushing your buttons because
Hmm.
they know how to hurt you. They know how to get a reaction.
Hmm.
So I think that's a big thing is about setting boundaries. And the other big ticket thing I think is social media because it really can be a blessing or a curse. But I really think we get to choose. Some people say, it's really depressing looking at social media. And I think, well, who are you following? Who are you following that's making you depressed or that's making you fearful? You get to choose. Just unfollow them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I talked to somebody like a week or so ago for the podcast and she was saying a huge thing with like body image and confidence in that way comes down to who you are allowing to be on your social media. And these days I feel like it's hard to unfollow people that you even know personally, which
Yeah.
such a new like dynamic these days because it means something, quote unquote, if you unfollow somebody or whatever, but they have new ways to do that so the person doesn't know. Like you can mute them on Instagram or
You
you
can
can
mute them.
take a break on Facebook. So there's really no excuse to not take a look at who you're following and how they make you feel and whether you're comparing yourself to them or which
Yeah.
I kind of like to point out too, it's not like their life is amazing and your life isn't as good. A lot of the time, you also see people saying, my life is so bad, or these things happen to me, and you feel like you don't have
Yeah.
the right to be struggling. So it comes from a lot of different angles, and it really matters who you're exposing yourself to in real life and online. And did you find that you for yourself have lost friendships or stepped away from people as a boundary? Or were you lucky enough to not have anybody who didn't make it to your post cancer treatment life?
Yeah. Yeah. There was somebody, not in my immediate family, but more out of family, somebody that I felt very obligated to, that I felt I had, a responsibility. She was one of those people who was always having a bad time. If, it was one series of things after another, and you think, as an outsider, you she had a lot of things to be fortunate about, but she also had a lot, a victim mentality of life is unfair, these things keep happening to me. And for a long time, I used to spend a lot of time with her, trying to help her, trying to coach her, trying to support